President Obama was in Michigan today campaigning on his plan to avert the fiscal cliff. Speaking to union workers at the Daimler Detroit diesel engine plant, the president said he's willing to compromise a little bit with Republicans on getting a plan for economic growth, job creation, and reducing the deficit. But he said he would not compromise on raising tax rates for high-income earners.
And that's a principle I won't compromise on, because I'm not going to have a situation where the wealthiest among us, including folks like me, get to keep all our tax breaks, and then we're asking students to pay higher student loans. Or, suddenly, a school doesn't have school books because the school district couldn't afford it.
Meanwhile, a ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee tells Nightly Business Report he's optimistic about getting a fiscal cliff deal by the end of the year. Maryland Congressman Chris Van Hollen talked with our Darren Gersh and began with an update on the status of the talks.
Well, the good news is that the President and the Speaker of the House are now in face-to-face discussions. It's always better to be talking than not. The other development is that increasingly congressional Republicans recognize that the position that they had staked out is unsustainable.
One of the arguments we hear from some Democrats is that the fiscal cliff isn't really a cliff, it's more like a slope, and you could gradually go down it, and the withholding from taxes wouldn't kick in for a while, and the spending cuts wouldn't hurt the economy right away. Do you believe it's a good idea to go over the cliff and it's more of a slope?
No, I think it would be a mistake to go over the fiscal cliff because it could set in motion lots of things that could be a drag on the economy. That being said, I think if it's clear that the parties were working toward a negotiation, that you could spill into January without doing any irreversible damage.
One of the ideas that seems to now be on the table is this idea of moving to a more accurate measure of inflation and using that to adjust Social Security benefits and tax brackets. Is that something you could support?
Well, I have two concerns with that. One is the general issue about dealing with Social Security in the context of these deficit reduction talks, because Social Security is fully solvent until the year 2033. After that point, it would pay 75 cents on the dollar if you do nothing. So we should work to deal with the long-term full solvency issue of Social Security, and the sooner we do that, the better, but it should be dealt with on its own terms. Second, the chain CPI has a very negative impact on seniors, especially as they get older and older because of its compounding effect. And the third issue is a lot of economists look at the cost of living of seniors and they say it's actually higher.
One of the ideas that is on the table is taking a look at Medigap insurance. I think a lot of seniors will be surprised by that, and the argument is that Medigap covers their first dollar out of pocket. And I think some seniors might be wondering, why does my Medigap policy, why could that potentially be part of this discussion around the fiscal cliff? Do you want to explain that?
Sure, and that in fact is part of the President's budget. Now, a lot of people haven't looked at what's in the President's budget, but that's an important idea. And the idea is this. Right now, the Medicare system is essentially subsidizing a lot of the Medigap plans, especially Medigap plans that have total first dollar coverage. In other words, where all of your copays are automatically covered. It sort of takes away some of the purpose of copays, which is to, for people to ask themselves twice before they get another test or go to the doctor again. And so that has an impact of driving up Medicare costs. And so one way to deal with that is through some very careful Medicare reform, as the President lays out in his plan.
Congressman Van Hollen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.